Bonsoir. Oui, je me souviens. C'est bien. Je m'assois avec vous.
Thank you. Excellency Federica Mogherini, High Representative of the Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy and Vice President of the European Commission, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you very much for having us here. It's a great pleasure to be here to open this, the Civil Society Forum Neighbourhood South, the fourth edition taking place here in Brussels over the next 2 days. And it's a great opportunity to exchange views on regional agendas under the theme Resilience and Youth, a very timely topic indeed. We're hoping to come out of the sessions here with a joint agenda between regional civil society organizations from the Southern Neighbourhood and the European Union to use as a launchpad for a new mechanism of structured dialogue managed by regional civil society. And this comes after our session a few weeks ago in Tunisia, where we discussed 4 thematic seminars on migration, security and resilience, human rights and governance, and reducing inequalities based on the recommendations given by civil society. Before I hand over to Her Excellency Mogherini, let me just introduce my colleague here, Saeed Salhi. He is a CSO member of the South Advisory Group, the SAG, and a human rights defender. He was very active in the discussions on human rights and governance in Tunisia, and he's also Vice President of the Algerian League for Human Rights. Without further ado, let me give the floor to Her Excellency HRVP Mogherini. The floor is yours to officially inaugurate this session.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Shahira. Thank you, Saïd. C'est un plaisir de vous revoir ici. Thanks to all of you for coming to once again, for those of you that have been here already in this forum, to Brussels. It is for me always a pleasure to meet you either in this format or in any other opportunities we have to exchange. It is for me a pleasure always, first of all, because I think that you have instruments that we do not have to see reality in your societies, to understand trends in your societies, from a national perspective, but also from a regional perspective, that sometimes are not necessarily captured by the institutional dynamics. And this is why, for me, it's a must every time I visit any country, inside or outside of the European Union, to have meetings with civil society organizations. And I recognize some of your faces around the table, having met in different places. This because, again, it's not just us, it's not just you needing our support, but it's also us needing your support and your inputs. Whenever we think of policies, anytime that we implement policies, or any time that we have institutional dialogues. Your perspective is always a fundamental complement to whatever institutional approach we can take. This forum, this forum represents something important to us, to me personally. You might know that my background personally is in civil society itself, so it's quite natural for me to be biased positively in this respect. But today's forum marks also a turning point in our conversation, because from our next meeting you will be fully in the driving seat. I hope and I believe you are already quite a lot in the driving seat. This is not completely new, but it is the next stage in a process that we started a few years ago. I know about your meeting in Tunis a couple of months ago. I know that you came up with a set of recommendations, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing from you recommendations. I remember very well last time we met, I think it was 2 years ago, I said it's good for me to talk, but it's also very good for me to listen and take notes. And so I hope that this session today, even if it's not too long, it's 1 hour, would provide me good inputs, reflections, suggestions, recommendations that we can then follow up. And I would be really pleased if in our exchange you could not just put questions, but simply observations, because it's my chance to get your views. Not the only one, luckily, but a good one. So I will be in a listening mode in a few minutes from now. But as I was saying, from the next forum, we will be in a different mode, in a different modality. From later this year, civil society will be fully in the lead. You will come up with your ideas for the management of the next edition of this forum. And I'm quite proud of this happening, even if at the same time I see this as the most natural and obvious thing to do. Because, as I said, we need your support, and not only you need ours. We need your support because in so many parts of the world and in our region, you need our support, because in so many parts of the world and of our region and of our countries, civil society is under attack. It's a trend that we are seeing, and it's a very worrying trend. Civil society organizations, NGOs, are often accused of being a threat to the stability of a country or of the region. But on the opposite, we believe in the European Union that when civil society comes under attack, when democracy is restricted, when free speech is mistaken for subversion, this is the perfect recipe to foster instability. And that there is no strongest support we can give to democracy and stability than the support we give to civil society organizations. And this is why you can count on the European Union to be the strongest supporter of civil society organizations in our region and active participation of our citizens to our societies. We understand your role. We also understand our role. We also know that you need strong institutions, open democracies, where institutions know what their role is. And to me, the role of institutions is also always that of facilitating an active participation of our citizens in all different forms. We Europeans continue and will continue not only to listen to you, but also to work to empower you. And I know that this is the most difficult thing to do in some countries. We will continue to stand by human rights defenders, providing them with legal support, helping them face threats, sometimes threats against their lives. We know that very well. We will keep working with civil society, whether to support migrants or to rebuild a country, because we know very well that there are things we cannot do unless there is a strong civil society in place. Some believe that there was an era, some even think that there is still an era, when governments can make peace or war or economic strong countries on their own. I believe that if there was ever an era like that, that's over. And that without strong, resilient civil societies, including strong, resilient youth in civil societies, there is little that governments or institutions can do. It is very clear when you look at some of the conflicts in our region. If you look at Syria or Iraq or Libya, you realize very well that after years of conflict, war, mistrust, violence, the fabric of society is so much damaged and fractured that without a civil society, local communities being able to engage and strong enough to be confident to re-engage, any process of post-conflict or peace is an illusion. This is something governments or institutions cannot do alone. We can accompany, we can facilitate, we can support national or local reconciliation, but reconciliation itself is up to the people of each country, of each community. and people that are actively participating to the life of their community and country and region. We in Europe understand this very well. This is part of our history. This is also part of the global strategy we adopted last year for foreign and security policy, and it is a driving force of our daily work. We know that we need to engage with different actors, civil society organizations, local communities, trade unions, mayors, faith leaders, private sectors, associations, charities, and the list could continue, because there are different forms also of civil society organizations. And to us, there is no other way to build peace, to spark sustainable development, to support democracy than this. I would say even to build security, because the European way to security is sustainable security. And sustainable security is rooted in strong, open societies. I often say we're not looking for the strong man of the day, we're looking for strong, resilient societies. That is what makes a country secure. At times, the best thing we can do if we want to invest in sustainable agriculture or vocational training is to support a civil society initiative that is already working in that field. We don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. There are good things already ongoing that we can simply support. In other cases, our support is essential to create the space for civil society to flourish. For instance, to create the links between the authorities, the NGOs, and the private sector. Or to support an innovation, as in your proposal on tech hubs, where civil society organizations could meet technology entrepreneurs. And I'm glad to see here how much energy has come from the Young Mediterranean Voices Plus initiative, something I'm very proud of. And our idea was to create a new channel for engagement between young people from our region and the European institutions. Then we also had a sort of extension in the Sahel that I think was quite exciting. But now that the channel is open, it is such an opportunity now to bring in new ideas, new inspiration to our work, to our institutional work. And we count on your inputs, your energy, and your fresh ideas to make that work better. This is also why you are taking over the management of this forum from us. We need your views, we need your expertise, because I believe there is a lot of knowledge and expertise on your side, and we need also your passion and energy. That can be, I think, a vital contribution to our institutional work. We believe civil society is an indispensable partner for our foreign policy. And the European Union is determined to continue to be an indispensable partner for strong, resilient, free societies all around the world, and in particular in this region. I finish by saying that my impression is that this year we meet in conditions that are a little bit more difficult than before. If we look at especially the work we're doing on human rights and opening space for active participation of our citizens in our societies, and I look around in the world, I fear the European Union is not just the strongest supporter for your work, but risks to be a bit more lonely in this work. So we need to partner. We need to partner, keeping all our differences and distances, and we will continue to fight as friends and partners, but being aware that there is a growing tendency in the world to consider that this is irrelevant / negative, while we in Europe are convinced this is vital / extremely positive. And here we are on the same side. We can disagree on some things, but I think we have to recognize each other as key partners in this moment of the world history that is quite a challenging one. And I think we have a responsibility towards our citizens and towards our region, towards our fellow citizens, if I can say so, to preserve and to increase the space for democracy and active participation, because there is something that is at stake here that is a bit bigger than single policies. I thank you very much, and now I enter into the listening mode. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency VP Mogherini, and as Her Excellency said, this is a two-way dialogue. It's a turning point because civil society will be leading the way in this process. And it's really heartening to hear that the EU stands behind CSOs at this time when the space for civil society is shrinking. Before we take questions from the floor, and we'll be taking 3. You will have a chance to engage, I promise, very shortly, but we shall hear from Said, and he is Vice President of the Algerian League for Human Rights. And then we will open the floor for questions.
And comments.
Yes, and comments, of course, please. Two-way dialogue. Said.
Merci. Merci. Mesdames et messieurs, représentants des institutions européennes, chers collègues, membres de la société civile, experts facilitateurs, honorable assistance, bonjour. Je voudrais tout particulièrement remercier Excellence, Madame Federica Mogherini, haute représentante et vice-présidente de la Commission européenne, pour sa présence, qui est un signe fort et un fort engagement dans le processus et auprès de la société civile. Je remercie aussi la Commission européenne et le service de l'action extérieure, le DG voisinage et DEVCO, coopération, pour tous les efforts de coordination, de concertation, d'organisation de cette 4e édition du forum dédié exclusivement à la société civile du Sud. Je tiens à vous dire, en tant que membre de la société civile, combien j'apprécie cette occasion de pouvoir porter cette voix et de partager avec vous ces moments de réflexion et de préoccupation pour un monde meilleur et pour une région de paix et de prospérité. Mesdames et messieurs, le bilan mitigé de la politique européenne de voisinage, engagée depuis des années et en partie sous la pression du printemps arabe en 2011, qui a entraîné la chute des régimes autocratiques et qui a vu toute une région, la région du Sud, bouleversée par des mouvements populaires qui revendiquaient un changement des politiques tant au niveau national que régional et mondial, a conduit à la formulation d'une politique européenne de voisinage révisée en 2014 avec une implication accrue de la société civile dans ce nouveau processus tant revendiqué par celle-ci. Depuis, on a assisté à plusieurs engagements pour un monde meilleur et plus juste. Les 17 objectifs de développement durable adoptés en 2015 par l'ONU avec l'objectif global de transformer notre monde à l'horizon 2030. L'accord de Paris sur le climat adopté lors de la COP 21 en 2016 et enfin le nouveau consensus européen pour le développement adopté en 2017. Et à chaque station, la voix de la société civile du Sud est présente, parfois bruyante, mais perspicace et pertinente par ses contributions et ses recommandations. Le nouveau processus européen pour le développement, signé en juin 2017, après 12 ans, n'est qu'une copie révisée du processus pour le développement déjà adopté en 2005. Tout en saluant ce nouvel engagement de l'Union européenne qui engage toutes les institutions et États membres, il est aussi important de rappeler que ce consensus pour le développement doit assurer la cohérence et l'équilibre entre les politiques européennes, économiques, commerciales et politiques en harmonie avec les valeurs des droits humains, de la démocratie qui animent l'Union européenne et qui ont présidé à sa création même. Ce processus, pour ne pas subir le sort de son précédent et pour plus d'efficacité, doit aussi assurer la cohérence entre les différents acteurs européens, Union européenne, Union pour la Méditerranée et États membres qui n'adoptent pas forcément les mêmes politiques et positions avec les États du Sud. Il doit avoir aussi les moyens de sa mise en œuvre, de son évaluation et de son réajustement. Enfin, ce nouveau consensus européen doit être élargi au gouvernement du Sud et à la société civile du Sud pour un engagement plus large, global et profitable à toutes les parties. L'aide au développement ne suffit pas. Seule une réelle cohérence des politiques en faveur du développement pertinent permettra aux États de se rapprocher des objectifs pour le développement durable. En effet, le développement durable ne pourra se réaliser sans la démocratie, le respect des droits humains, de tous les droits, la paix et la protection des populations vulnérables et des minorités, avec un impact réel sur les populations locales et les pays en développement. Les politiques du voisinage et du développement doivent permettre aux États et aux populations du Sud de s'affranchir du rapport de dépendance économique que crée l'aide. Elle doit permettre en horizon à cette région une autonomie réelle à même de pouvoir dessiner d'elle-même son destin selon ses priorités et ses besoins. Ces politiques soutiendraient Encore une distribution plus équitable du pouvoir et un renforcement des capacités d'action et d'expression des acteurs de la société civile pour une démocratie réelle et pas seulement formelle. Elles peuvent aider à susciter graduellement le dialogue local entre les acteurs étatiques et les acteurs de la société civile, le mieux tripartite, et à une participation active de la population au processus d'élaboration et de décision. Enfin, un dernier mot. Je tiens à saluer tout particulièrement mes collègues du SAG, donc c'est le comité de consultation Sud, les ONG, ainsi que toute l'équipe de la Commission européenne pour toute la bonne coopération que nous avons eue depuis le lancement de ce processus. J'invite les participants à approfondir et à enrichir ces axes de réflexion dans l'option de contribuer efficacement à cette concertation et de réussir notre forum. Je vous remercie. Merci.
Thank you very much, Saïd, and thank you for sticking to the time that was allotted to you. Before we open the floor for questions, perhaps, Excellency, you'd like to give us your feedback or react to some of the things that Saïd has said.
Avec plaisir. Comme toujours, je trouve très intéressant les remarques que vous avez faites. Je suis convaincue que certains points que vous avez soulevés vont revenir dans le débat. Pour nous, c'est fondamental aussi le soutien à la société civile, le partenariat avec la société civile pour créer des partenariats globaux qui vont au-delà des institutions, exactement pour soutenir l'agenda global des Nations Unies. Vous avez fait référence à l'accord de Paris sur le climat, aux objectifs de développement durable, c'est bien comme ça en français, au nouveau consensus pour le développement qu'on a adopté dans l'Union européenne. Mais je pourrais continuer. Il y a un agenda global à la base, je pense, de notre engagement commun sur le type de développement que nous avons à l'esprit, qui est basé en effet sur le principe de la redistribution des opportunités, de l'accès soit aux responsabilités, vous pouvez l'appeler pouvoir, on peut l'appeler responsabilité, mais c'est la même chose, et surtout la redistribution des opportunités d'accès aux ressources dans le monde, dans notre région, à l'intérieur de chaque société, de chaque système national. C'est aussi pour cette raison qu'on tient tellement à cet lien, à ces partenariats avec la société civile. I switch to English. I think the main points of our new consensus for development are two main points you raised in your remarks. One is to finally move beyond the aid-only approach towards partnership for sustainable development. That is what we're looking for, because we know very well that aid is relevant and we will continue to be the main donors worldwide. We are the main donors worldwide. If you combine all the rest of the world together, still we are the main donors compared to that, meaning that the European Union and its member states is and will continue to be the first donor on development funds and humanitarian assistance. This will continue for us, but we feel this is not enough. And we feel that what we need is a true political partnership for development. Policy coherence, looking at long-term objectives, looking at ownership, not only of institutions, but also societies. This is the approach we have taken, and this is why it's so important for us to enter into this common engagement with you. But I stop here because I promise that I enter into a listening mode, and that would be. I'm pleased that we have enough time for this exchange of views. Maybe one last point I would like to say. You mentioned the climate change agreement. We see this as one of the key fields for the European Union commitment. We have started since a few months. The timing is not taken by chance, to build global alliances of different partners to safeguard the agreement and to make sure it's implemented fully. This means governments, institutions, from China to Latin America, to India, to Russia, with all the difficulties, but also non-state actors, cities, business, civil society, to build a global alliance, a strong global alliance of which the European Union can be the center and the promoter, together with your help. I think this is really not only a matter of future generations, this is also a matter of security for us. For us, security is also humanitarian investment, is also climate change action, and this is the approach we are bringing also to our friends across the Atlantic.
Thank you very much, Excellency Mogherini, and your words.
Can you call me Federica?
Federica, thank you. And
drop the accents.
well, your words, I'm sure my friends here will agree, have given us a lot of optimism. And I remember I heard you last year, and you have lived up to your words. So I think we're all very, very happy today to hear. And we will now take questions from the floor. Please keep your comments also. So keep your questions and comments concise to give more time for others. We'll take 3 at a time. And introduce yourself, please, when you speak. Okay. We start with Samia.
Thank you. I'm Samia from Tunisia and also SAG members. Thank you, Ms. High Representative of Europe. And I'm from Tunisia, as I said, and you know in the history Tunisia and some of Africa, North Africa, is called Africa. So it's a part, that's why Africa, it's called Africa. And yesterday I was preparing the resilience session, and that I will present after, and I listened to the news about G20, in which European Union and states are major member, decide to resolve migration problems with only private investment. So I have a real difficulty to see how the implementation of resilience recommendation and can be effective to address and also resilience strategy of EU to address inequality and challenges and tackle pressure and threats if global economic strategies are not convergent with global development goals and not coherent. So here I ask you, how we can say to youth in the South and in Africa to keep trust in what we are building now, and this is for us is a big problem. Thank you.
Thank you for this. The time is tight, so I go directly in the same line with Samia. I think I'm afraid there is some serious shift in the EU policy. And let me explain a little bit, which is not very well highlighted in the consensus. There is a feeling that, the security, which is becoming a very important value in the neighborhood policy, in the consensus document, in many of the EU documents, and we can understand why, and it's very understandable that security is something very important in our today's reality, but the approach to security is very limited and not really addressed and taking into consideration the root causes of the instability and the challenges that security is facing. Particularly, let me talk about the inequality and the exclusion or inclusion in that sense. And let me end this point by saying that I believe that there is a big difference between resilience to security and live in a secure world. So, and this is something that it should be really addressed and really discussed. On the other hand, in the shift from, development cooperation to more investment and enhancing, the role of private sector, which is also understandable, and for the sake of being independent. One of the core objectives is when you negotiate, or the EU negotiate with the partners, is to reduce the business cost of the investments, etc., which can risk to hinder the efforts to mobilize domestic resources for development, or it can go in other direction with all the development efforts, whether at the global and at the regional level. And this is something that it was mentioned by Samia, and it was mentioned by Saeed, and this is something, a real concern that we don't see, discussed in depth in the EU consensus or the EU investment framework or in the sustainable development policy. Thank you.
Yes. Hani from Egypt. I would like first to thank you, Madame Mogherini, to be here and to listen to our comments and our feedback. I have two short comments. First, it is a great opportunity for me to advocate for more representation from the Egyptian organization to be represented here. Egyptian organization, not only the pure human rights organization, and not only the one who are in Brussels, but also there are many other organizations very active in the field of migration, resilience, and the youth, and they must be included, and their voice must be reached, so we can give a better image about what is happening and give insightful feedback about Egypt, so we don't want to be left behind. Secondly, my comment, the second comment about regional level. I am advocating for new, young, and active networks from the neighborhood south to be given opportunity to serve both objectives, the European objectives and their national objectives, and not only the old networks that was always be represented in the European institutions. So please give new networks opportunity to be represented. Thank you.
صباح الخير. حابة أقول نحيي السيدة فيدريكا وأيضا جميع الحضور. سليمة الفاخري من ليبيا. تحدثنا الكثير في خلال المنتديات السابقة عن مشاركة منظمات المجتمع المدني فيما يتعلق بالمشاركة سواء كان مع صناع القرار أو مع المنظمات الدولية الأوروبية. هناك نسمع عن الحديث عن لقاءات تخطيطية أو تشاورية مع بعض الجهات أو مع مؤسسات المجتمع المدني، ولكن هناك لا تزال الصورة غير واضحة ما يعني خارطة عمل الاتحاد الأوروبي ودعمه للمنظمات في ليبيا أو في بعض الدول. في اقتراح بأن يتم هناك رعاية ودعم لجلسات حوارية والتنسيق والتخطيط بين المنظمات المجتمع المدني وأيضا صناع القرار ومراكز البحوث، بحيث أن يكون هناك المقترحات التي تنتج سواء كانت مشاريع يتم تنفيذها أو سياسات يتم اتخاذها من قبل الدول تكون هناك فيها مشاركة حقيقية على الأرض. أنا أتكلم بوجهة مجتمع مدني بحث بصورة عملية أو موضوعية، أيضا التركيز على برامج التوعية والتثقيف والتنمية، لأن هذه المواد التثقيف والتوعية هي التي ستساعدنا كثير، لأن هناك التيارات المتطرفة التي بدأت تنتشر ولم تكن موجودة في بعض البلدان خصوصا التي تعيش في حالة صراع مسلح حاليا، فعن طريق برامج التثقيف والتوعية هي التي تخلق بديل للأفكار والتثقيف المتطرف والذي يسوقنا إلى الصراعات وأيضا المزيد من التعقيدات والتي تتضرر منها كثير من الدول. هناك مسألة التمويل، وهي تقليص التمويل فيما يتعلق بعض الدول من ضمنها ليبيا، وهذا الأمر سيكون جدا صعب في تحقيق القضايا أو العمل على القضايا التي تهم البلدان للخروج من هذه المراحل الصعبة، والتنسيق وتنفيذ البرامج التي تهم شمال وجنوب المتوسط، وأيضا قضية بناء القدرات التي نحتاج إليها كثيرا جدا في بلداننا. أتمنى التركيز على هذه القضايا التي تهم أو تعتبر من ضمن أولويات المنظمات المجتمع المدني في جنوب المتوسط. شكرا.
Jordan?
Which one? مين من الثلاثة؟ احنا؟
اوكي مالك. Bonjour tout le monde. Melk Kfif du Forum tunisien pour les droits économiques et sociaux. Madame Mogherini, vous avez parlé de votre soutien, bien sûr, aux défenseurs des droits de l'homme, à la stabilité, à la démocratie, à la société civile également. Ça a été tout le temps des constantes des politiques de l'Union européenne. Mais ce que l'on attend également maintenant, c'est un soutien un peu plus prononcé sur les causes et les préoccupations de la société civile. Notamment en matière de prospérité économique. Ce qu'on nous propose également maintenant, c'est des accords de libre-échange, approfondis qui menacent sérieusement cette question de prospérité économique dans nos pays. Ce qu'on nous propose, c'est une fermeture des frontières, et sur le volet des droits de l'homme, également en tant que société civile, nous ne pouvons que défendre la liberté de circulation, le droit des émigrés en Europe également, et pas seulement dans nos pays. Et sur toutes ces questions-là, nous pensons qu'il y a quand même un problème de cohérence entre les discours, ce que vous proposez chez nous, et des difficultés à accepter ce discours au niveau de l'Europe. Et donc, peut-être y aurait-il une difficulté à partager le sens du mot de voisinage. Pour nous, le voisinage au sud de la Méditerranée, c'est vraiment une solidarité, c'est du partage et c'est des portes ouvertes. Pour l'instant, le voisinage, dans le discours qu'on entend, c'est quand même un voisinage avec des portes assez fermées, avec des migrants qui meurent tous les jours en Méditerranée, avec des frontières qui se ferment même au niveau de l'Europe, concernant ces migrants-là et sur les migrants qu'ils ont déjà installés ici. Donc, sur tous ces aspects de cohérence, nous aimerions également avoir un soutien de l'Union européenne auprès des décideurs européens et auprès des gouvernants européens également. Merci.
Hi everyone. Hello, my name is Issam Ben Isa, and I'm from the Young Mediterranean Voices, representing Algeria. So Mr. Mogherini, you've been speaking about the process of opening channels of communication between the EU and youth, or promoting youth agency in the Euro-Mediterranean region. And me and my 3 colleagues over here, we had the chance to meet with you in the dialogue meeting in March, along with 35 young leaders from both shores of the Mediterranean, from Europe, Middle East, and North Africa. And that meeting was really inspiring, but as well really constructive for us, because we could actually identify a couple of priority themes that youth in both shores of the Mediterranean are facing, which were centered basically around education, mobility, security, and media. And this actually goes in line with the new United Nations Security Council Resolution 2250 that considers youth as not only, or as it was always described, as a source of threat, but rather as a source of growth, as a source of peace building in any region. And you have, in front of you here 4 young people who have a grassroots experience, working, previously in the Young Arab Voices projects and currently in the Young Mediterranean Voices after expanding it, on questions related to transforming debates into actions, to critical thinking, to create new media alternatives. So I just wanted to say that we started, this process in Malta perhaps, but as well after your meeting, that we are really motivated about it. We're really happy to be here contributing to 3 different workshops. 2 of us are going to be in the workshop of resilience and security, and the theme here in the Civil Society Forum is about youth and resilience. But as well, we're going to be working with my 2 colleagues on migration, but as well on reducing inequalities. So we're really looking forward into that, and we are really looking forward as well to continuing this work together, of course, with your support. Thank you.
One last one.
رامي عبد الرحمن مدير المرصد السوري لحقوق الإنسان. طبعا شكرا للسيدة موغريني. هنا أتحدث أنا من سوريا لأن الاتحاد الأوروبي هو أقرب إلى سوريا من روسيا والولايات المتحدة الأمريكية. اليوم السيدة موغريني تحدثت عن تدمير المجتمع في ليبيا وسوريا والعراق، ولكن نقول الاتحاد الأوروبي شكرا لجهودكم في البداية، ولكن جهودكم يجب أن تستمر، لأن عندما نتحدث تدمير المجتمع عن الحركات المتطرفة في سوريا أو ليبيا أو العراق، لأن هناك عدم توعية للمجتمع المدني، عدم شراكة للمجتمع المدني بشكل حقيقي في أن ينشر فكر التكافل في المجتمع. جاءتنا من عبر وسائل الإعلام بعض الحركات المتطرفة ونمت بشكل كبير جدا، لذلك أطلب من الاتحاد الأوروبي دعم وسائل إعلامية أو دعم برامج إعلامية للعمل من أجل توحيد المجتمع المدني السوري بشكل محدد، لأن هناك لدينا أعراق وطوائف وأديان، وأيضا أن يكون للاتحاد الأوروبي دور سياسي في الحل في سوريا، أن لا يقتصر فقط على الولايات المتحدة وروسيا، لأن الولايات المتحدة لديها أجندة محددة وروسيا لديها أجندة محددة، ومثل ما ذكرنا الاتحاد الأوروبي هو أقرب إلى سوريا، ومن مدينتي أنا بانياس إلى قبرص نصف ساعة بالطائرة، بينما نحتاج إلى الولايات المتحدة ساعات كثيرة وإلى روسيا ساعات كثيرة. وشكرا لك.
Sorry. My name is Christiane Dabdoub Nasser. I'm part Palestinian, part French, and part Syrian, and I'm the team leader of the technical assistance for the MedCulture program. And before I go into what I wanted to say, I just want to we welcome very much your communication on culture in EU external relations, and we feel that it coincides a lot with the way we do things in the MedCulture program. So what I want to mention is that there is a gross absence of cultural civil society actors in this forum, and I think it's a shame, because culture and cultural society, civil society organizations involved in culture are crucial in engaging in dialogue on many issues that are concerned to the EU and to many groups in the South, including resilient societies, youth empowerment, creativity and innovation, human rights, and so on. And MedCulture has been very successful at many levels because it's based its actions on consultations in the countries, both with civil society and government institutions. It created a dialogue between civil society and governments, institutions, local authorities, but also national governments, and engaged them, and it contributed to narrow the gap of perceptions between the two. It broadened the base in the sense that it included cultural operators who have never had access to EU funds or even to be given a voice, and it focused on capacity development, and it focused on processes rather than on results. So I want to insist that culture is an avenue that addresses all these issues that we mentioned through process, through engagement, and through empowerment, rather than upfront. And I think this is very important on the longer term. Thank you.
Salvatore Nigro and Marcello Scalisi have asked to speak.
Salvatore Nigro, Vice President of Education for Employment a network that works in the Middle East and North Africa to create job opportunities for young people. We connected over 50,000 young people to work. I'm here joined by Gadir Koufash, our CEO in Jordan, and Hilem Kardoudi, our CEO in Morocco. Thanks to the European Commission, we surveyed 10,000 young people in the Middle East and North Africa between 18 and 29, statistically representing the world population, the regional population. 75% of them say they do not want to emigrate. 86% of them say they feel they need to emigrate because of the lack of economic opportunities. Now, we positively see that agreements also in Jordan, like the rule of origin, is contributing to creating jobs for Jordanians and refugees. Is this something that can also happen in other countries with migrants coming from sub-Saharan Africa and actually staying in North African countries? And in addition to that, can we also have and created these economic specialized zones, not only for the private sector, but also for people who can work in the civil society, for services of the civil society, and making sure that the investment in the economic specialized zones are socially responsible. Thank you.
Marcello?
Marcello, Director of UNIMED, the Mediterranean University Union, which is a network of 100 universities coming from 24 countries of the region. We are a sort, in some way, of facilitator of the policy of the European Commission and the needs of the university in the region. We represent institutions in some way, like the universities, but in the university there are a lot of young students, young people, and I totally agree with your vision about the needs of an alliance between us, because at the moment the storytelling about NGOs is not very good, but at the same time the storytelling about Europe is not very good, discussing about migration in particular and so on. My comment is related to the lack of coordination about the policies of the European Commission, because you have a lot of actors that do inside the European Commission many activities, DG NEAR, DG Research, DG Education, and so on. But sometimes, for the region, I mean, there is, I think, a lack of coordination between all these actors. And I think that, in particular, for a better education, that is a key element to answer to human rights and governance and the other migration, resilience, and so on. A better coordination between all these actors could be very important. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Ahmed Al-Damrawi. I'm the team leader of the Civil Society Facility South. It's a facility funded by the EU, and it's based in Tunis for the Southern Mediterranean, covering the ANBI countries. Factually, the question I'm coming across with, and having the experience of implementing the civil society in the Southern Mediterranean over the last 5 years, we would like to also take into account to understand we are moving between 3 different leaders or environments within the Southern Mediterranean. One is the enabling, which is a long way to go still, and the other one is the shrinking space, and the third is the no space at all. So I think the region is moving between no space and shrinking space, and from the point of enabling, we are still far to dream to get about it. Now, my question here would be, what else to add on what you are already doing and doing well and successfully to deal with this dilemma of the shrinking and no space within the Southern Mediterranean? The civil society organizations is a true partner and should be really giving the space and opportunity to become that true and partner through a proper inclusiveness and representation in the entire dialogue and development cycle within their countries and the region, with their local authorities, governments, and the EU. And I think their power, and it still is in a muted situation because they have not been included in this cycle yet, and therefore they cannot contribute fully to it. So we would be very keen to understand what is the next few years bringing into your portfolio to deal with this dilemma within the Southern Mediterranean particularly, and to unlock the power and potential of civil society in the South? Thank you.
I just want to add to what Ahmed said, that there's a general feeling among CSOs, especially those led by youth, that they have been abandoned by Western governments, because all the talk about human rights violations takes place behind closed doors, and then agreements are signed with their governments regardless. So is there anything we can tell them to allay their concerns? Thank you.
Thanks. And I'm sorry our time is limited, because I would have loved to continue this conversation. The first one, I think, that took the floor spoke about optimism. You know, sometimes I think it's in my job description as it is in yours somehow, because if you don't believe that there is something good that can come out of your work, you set your standards on the lowest possible denominator. But on the other side, I think we have to understand each other here on the fact that we're not living happy times. Inside Europe, outside Europe, in the world, in the region, civil society, institutions, citizens, we're not living an easy moment. And this said from a person that is probably the most optimistic you could find. I always try to see the positive, but it is true, we have we have many different problems, but two major problems here we share around us. One is the shrinking or no space for civil society organizations, and in general, for what I call active participation of citizenship, that at the end of the day comes down to what is the young people place in society, and that is the most pressing issue for me. And I'll come to the what next. The other major problem we have is that the political dynamics, not only in the region, but listen, in the world, is not going in the direction we would have wished to see, probably, collectively. We will all have our political opinions here, but it's not about this. It's about recognizing that rule of law, human rights, democracy, space for civil society organizations, space for democratic participation of citizens is an essential part of our societies. That political trend is shrinking itself. And this is the basis of our political fight, which I believe is a common fight. That is my starting point, because I know very well that there are some issues that are difficult, and some things that make you critical about also the European Union policies. And I am the first one here to fight on that. It's a political fight. Huh? It's a political fight, because you might remember very well on migration 2 years ago, the approach was security, border security, border management only. And today we are on partnerships, which is, for me, a shift. But it's a political fight, inside Europe and outside. But my impression is that we need to realize that the place where we are today in terms of global politics, and regional politics also, but global politics in particular, is a different place than the one we were a couple of years ago. Look around and tell me, sorry I'm blunt, because we're friends and we're among friends, tell me, looking around you, who is the best possible ally and partner for civil society organizations, human rights organizations, in the region and in the world, if not the European Union, with all our limits? Tell me one. It's us and the UN, and that's it. I'm sorry. It's sad for me to say, because I wish. And Canada, I fully agree. And many others, and many others. Canada, for sure. Sorry. No, but please, Canada, for sure. But I could mention others. Could mention some friends and partners in Latin America that are strong on this. I can mention some partners elsewhere that are strong on this. Canada, for sure. Canada is a very important player, but has the size not geographical size in that terms, but in terms of economic power, that is partial respect to the European Union size. But if you look around, and Canada, I agree 100%, is a strong ally on that. But you look around and you don't see much in terms of political support. With all the contradictions that are there, because as I said, it's an ongoing political fight inside the European Union. We face shrinking space for civil society in parts of the European Union itself. I'm not hiding that at all. And I think that the work of civil society organizations inside the European Union is fundamental as well, and their partnership with yours. But the point is, don't underestimate the power and the positive that the European Union is bringing and is trying to do for this partnership with you and for opening up those spaces, not only in the Mediterranean, but elsewhere, in Asia, in Latin America, in the United States, in Africa, in the UN system, wherever. Because being a political fight also inside the European Union, you could end up giving arguments to those that say, it's useless, forget it. It's a lost fight. Migration. I know the storytelling sometimes is not good, but as frustrated and angry I was 2 years ago, I can tell you now that if you look at who is saving lives at sea, some of you, many of us, we have men and women operating under EU flag in the Mediterranean that have been saving tens of thousands of lives, not only at sea, but also at land. Because, sorry, we took, finally, and I say as an Italian, finally, because I've seen too many people dying in the Mediterranean before the Europeans realized that it was not an Italian or a Libyan or a Tunisian problem, it was a European problem. Finally, we are doing European things to save lives and to protect lives at sea and at land. Who is supporting financially and logistically the IOM or the UNHCR inside Libya in extremely difficult conditions, or in Agadez, or in Mali, to save lives? The European Union. Here, I'm sorry again, I'm blunt, I ask the same level of engagement from our partners, the governments and the institutions and the local authorities of Mediterranean countries and of African countries, to save lives. Because we can help a lot, but we also need local authorities to take responsibility to save their citizens' lives. It's not only a European issue. It's a global issue, it's a local issue, and we need partnerships on that. What we are trying to do is this: dismantling the traffickers' networks, saving lives, protecting lives, because saving lives is not enough if then they end up in a detention center, protecting rights with the IOM and the UNHCR and the international NGOs that are doing this with the international standards, and most of all, working on the living conditions in the countries of origin, in the communities of origin, because you take one country and you find very diverse situations from one place to the other. Tackling what we always refer to, the root causes, to me it's not the root causes, it's the Sustainable Development Goals. It's the same agenda. It's economic development, it's climate change action, is rule of law and human rights, is good governance, because there are many people that are leaving because of political reasons. So you would not find one, well, Canada, the UN, but you would not find another actor that takes into consideration all the different aspects of how to manage the migration fight. And you would never hear me saying how to manage the migration problem. It's not a problem, unless it becomes a problem for the migrants themselves if they need to face death or slavery. I always refuse to speak about the refugee crisis. The crisis is for the refugees, it's not for Europe. But do we want to face the fact that you talk to Nigeria women and you listen to stories of slavery all the way to Europe, and once they arrive to Europe, my approach as a former NGO or civil society activist and militant and worker is that you don't deny a problem, you face it. And to me, it's part of our human rights duties to face that problem and to tackle it. And so working to disrupt the business of these criminal organizations, for me, is a way of protecting human rights. This goes together with opening legal channels, regular channels for migration. But I cannot deny that what is happening is not only putting in danger lives, it's also a basic denial of human dignity. And I expect from civil society and NGOs to denounce it as well. Because here, our common enemy are the smugglers. That's the point. You hear the stories of the migrants, those that survive, and that's perfectly clear. Our common enemy are the smugglers. We need to work on legal channels and regular channels, but we have together to work to guarantee that people are treated with dignity, because we're talking here about modern slavery. Modern slavery. And in some cases, it's clear that the path leads to death. So it's not about good feelings. It's about saving people. And again, I think that here we have managed in the last year and a half, to put in place good policies of partnership with our African friends, countries of origin, countries of transit, not just governments, but also civil society, local authorities, communities of women that are sometimes the most affected one, young people, to find common solutions to a global phenomenon. That's the point. If you look at migration, it's more within Africa than towards Europe. It's more within Asia than towards Europe. So it's not a European problem. But Europe has the resources, the political strength, and together with the UN, the right approach now, I believe, of creating partnerships to manage together a complex phenomenon that requires different steps of answers. But on this also we need to partner. Because if, and here again I will be very clear, if out of the political fight in Europe, inside the European Union, between the purely securitarian approach and the partnership approach that finally we've managed to put in place, from the civil society organization side, from the NGO community, comes an attack on the European Union approach that is finally that of partnership, those that have always been supporting the security-only approach will get more space. I think we are together in this, but we need your support as well. I think I was clear. That's my limit. I'm always a little bit too diplomatic. And for us, it's a matter of economic investment, not only private investment, but also private investment, provided that private investment is channeled towards the Sustainable Development Goals in fragile states, in fragile communities, in a rule of law, human rights perspective. I see nothing bad in that. On the contrary, we need private resources. What we need is that private resources are channeled towards Sustainable Development Goals. And includes also, obviously, a massive investment from our side, and includes also an enormous work we do on democracy, rule of law, and human rights, because we know very well that this is part of the push factor. What kind of future, what kind of role I have in my society, not only in terms of a job, but also in terms of political participation, rules of the game, active civil participation in my society. In this term, also security, it is the buzzword in Europe, not only in Europe. Actually, I see this coming up as a priority much more in the southern part of our region than in the northern part of our region. If you go across the North Africa, Middle East, but even Sahel region or West Africa, you hear security as a priority much more than you do in Europe. And you can be sure that on the European Union side, there will be always an approach to security that doesn't only cover the security angle, but always the broader angle you were referring to. It's, again, what I call sustainable security. You can have security with a securitarian angle only. It can last for 3 months, and then you're back to square zero. You have to build the conditions for a sustainable security, which is one that involves the entire society in terms of participation and inclusiveness. What you said, I agree. Then some elements that were raised in a punctual manner. Libya, we are, we are supporting already NGOs in Libya. No need for me to tell you how difficult it is to implement projects on the ground for different reasons. So here I think that we really need to partner as much as we can, because here also we need your help to identify channels, ways, places to implement projects in an effective manner, in a transparent manner, in a secure manner. The political will is there, the resources are there, some of them are already committed and used. We want to do more. We need partners to do more on the ground. And so I think that this can be a channel that we can explore even more. From our side, all the will to invest more on different aspects, starting from the well-being of the Libyans, because that is the priority for us. On youth, I fully subscribe. You know, for me, it's absolutely clear it's not part of the problem, it's part of the solution. It's part of the problem only if it's not given the chance of being part of the solution or to contribute to the way in which the youth sees the solution, especially in the South Mediterranean. And I even have problems in saying south shore of the Mediterranean, because I often say this, till the end of June, the presidency of the European Union was held by Malta, which is south of Tunis. So what is the south and what is the north is quite relative. But in your countries, the youth is the majority of the population. So it's not a matter of getting a quota, it's a matter of contributing with the solutions you need. And this is why we're trying to support in all ways your networking, but also your contribution to policy making. In different regionally, but also nationally. On culture also, I fully agree. I think this is important for the economy. I think it is important for the conflict areas, for reconciliation processes, and also for intercultural learning, which is one of the things we're missing the most around our sea. Syria. I always think that this is well known, but apparently not so much. The European Union is already, where is our friends? There. Yes. The European Union is already, and member states together, is already by far the first supporter for Syrians, both inside and outside Syria. More than 9 billion euros mobilized so far. So I get a bit angry when I'm told that where is the European Union? The Russians and the Americans are doing things. The Russians and the Americans are doing other things. What we are doing is supporting Syrians.
Okay.
For me, it's impossible and unacceptable to make this equation. Military role equal political role. I'm sorry. For me, political role is supporting the mediation by the United Nations, meeting with the civil society and supporting local projects, giving humanitarian and development aid, working with the regional powers to try to support some bottom-up processes. If the civil society, if the NGOs believe that the only thing that gives you political role is military action, I'm sorry, there's something I'm missing. Because this is not my view. This is not the European Union view. For me, for us, what counts is the support to the Syrians and the political and diplomatic work with the UN and with the regional and international players to try to find a diplomatic and political solution to the crisis. I refuse to say, and I know this was not your position, but I refuse to say, many say so, yes, we can have a conversation after, but I refuse to think or to say that only through military action you gain a political impact. I believe the contrary. I believe that while others were bombing, the European Union was helping. This is my approach. We can have a conversation. I know this was not your intention, and you mentioned several times that the European Union needs to continue its support. But I was surprised and impressed, positively impressed, by the fact that when we had, talking about the political role, when we had the conference on Syria and the future of Syria here in Brussels in April, with the United Nations Secretary General, with 80 countries and international leaders on the political perspectives of the crisis in Syria. We had here, the day before, a meeting with the Syrian civil society. And I think that that is the track of work that is most useful, not only for us, but also for the international community, for the United Nations efforts, and for the future of Syria. I recognize that we have the same kind of priorities there between the civil society organizations in Syria and the approach we take in the European Union, which is, first of all, Hudna, second, reconciliation, efforts to start some reconstruction linked to a political transition. This is our path. This is what we are advocating in all places, and this is what we are working on with especially the countries of the region. And also with the Americans and the Russians. This is an issue we constantly discuss. Tomorrow, Sergei Lavrov will be here, and for sure Syria will be on top of our agenda, together with other issues. But again, this is our approach, and we will continue to be the first supporters of Syrians, of all those Syrians that want peace, and trying to overcome the difficulties in reaching an agreement at political level. There were other issues raised, but I'm afraid I'm running a bit late, and I have a continuation of our Mediterranean dialogue, because we have the Association Council with Jordan in a moment. Rules of origin, you asked if this is possible elsewhere. Could be, but while you were speaking, your colleague from Jordan was shaking his head. So I'll wait for assessment from your side before I engage with other cases. Thank you so much, and I wish you a very successful work.
Thank you very much, Federica, for a very vibrant, honest, and very insightful discussion, and many thanks to you all for your valuable contribution. And I think we can sum up in one word that we are in this fight together. It's a very difficult fight, but we can only win if we persist and continue to work together.